Welcome, everybody. It's Cyber Warrior. This is CyberWarriorStudios, and we're live for Security Happy Hour. Yes, I've been able to escape the cyber overlords that have been haunting me all day. I mean, they tried to take out my collectibles earlier today. I don't know if you saw it, but either way, I'm happy to have you here. And here in just a second, we're going to get into it. And we're back. And look, hey, it is a great evening. It's Friday. We're going into a holiday weekend, and it's awesome. Unfortunately, my partner in crime, Eric, is not able to join us today, but that's okay. The show must go on, as they say. So joining me today, I have Simon Linstead, who has quite an interesting journey of how he made it to where he's at. So, Simon, without further ado, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about, what got you into cybersecurity?
Hey, well, firstly, thanks ever so much for having me on. It's much appreciated. My name's Simon. I'm 47 years old, the father of 6 amazing children, and also the founder of the InfoSec Live community back in June last year. I don't know where you want me to go next with it, whether you want me to give you a bit of background of where I came from before that or how I've ended up in the industry. It's up to you. As you know, it's midnight here, so I've had three large coffees. I'm buzzing on caffeine, and I'm ready.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that. No, why don't let's start. Let's start a little bit kind of from where you told me a little bit of where it got you into cybersecurity, like how you made this career transition. So tell us what sparked your interest in cybersecurity, and then kind of get into the transitioning aspect of it as you go transitioning, later on in your career.
Okay. I suppose the best place to start really is how I got interested in technology in the first place. And for me, I mentioned my age at the start. I'm 47 years old. Technology was only starting to blossom in the world, really, as in available for everyone during my childhood. And for my first, I think it was my 8th birthday, I got a Commodore VIC-20, which I think was followed by a Commodore 64. And from that time on, for the rest of my life, technology, computers has been kind of a passion of mine. And in particular, trying to break technology or improve it, I think is what I used to say I was trying to do. And what I actually used to do was probably make it worse and break it completely. But my life went off on a complete tangent, as some people's do. And I got to a point in my life, and I will go back and cover off what happened at 45, where I decided that rather than do a career that I'd been chasing money for my whole life, and, I'd done very well at financially, but had no real enjoyment or satisfaction from, I was determined to do a job that I had an interest in. And that's kind of what launched me back in 2020 on my journey into cybersecurity.
And that's crazy because in 2020, you started your journey in cybersecurity. In that time frame, you started a community in and of yourself with InfoSec Live. So, was InfoSec Live your first kind of project getting into cybersecurity, or were you training and doing things on your own and you were like, you know what, something has to change, and so you took it upon yourself to change it?
It's a really good question. And I suppose the most important point to get across is there was no thought behind or no plan behind putting the community in place in the first place, other than just to try and help people. And I'm probably best going back to the start of my journey to explain, I suppose, 1, why that would be important to me, and 2, how I saw that was needed. And if you don't mind me giving you a bit of a sketchy life history, I'll go back to the beginning. I'll give you the polite, censored version. Because I know
you don't need to do that. Hey, we're here for it.
it's midnight here, but it's only 7 o'clock where you are. So I just want to make sure, it's not completely below the belt. But I suppose the best place to start is to give you an idea of how I became the person I was until a few years ago. And that's, I was adopted at 6 weeks old by a lovely family in the United Kingdom who took me on in their own home. No other brothers and sisters. I was the only adopted child. They very kindly sent me to a private school, privately educated me. I swam at a very high level, swam nationally, breaststroke and freestyle up until the age of about 15. I kickboxed at a pretty high level nationally as well, up until the age of about 17. But what also happened, I suppose it's worth mentioning, that despite I was kind of the kid who went to private school. I was the poor kid at private school. So my adoptive parents sacrificed an awful lot to pay the fees to send me to a private school. And I thank them for that with all my heart. However, it formed who I became, I think, being that poor kid. So everyone else had money. You used to go around your friends' houses to play after school. They'd live in stately homes and mansions. You know, my mum's house was a kind of small, nice house. But I suppose I always had a kind of a feeling of inferiority throughout my childhood slightly. And then at 13, my mum and dad split up. And I ended up going from, I'll tell you a little story, got expelled from private school for fighting, ended up at the local state comprehensive at age 13. And I was basically briefcase wanker in that I was the posh kid who'd ended up at state school, got picked on the first day. And I think I had a fight at least once a week until I left when I was 16. So it didn't go terribly well, is my point.
So you got picked on at the private school for being too
No, I
broke,
got picked on
at the public school for
being
too
so
rich.
that didn't get around very well. I think the first day I had a fight and got suspended. Some boy picked on me and I think I knocked him out outside the classroom, which I'm not proud of, but it kind of started off. Once you've made that impression in the school, the thing that happens there is that everyone wants to fight you, and it became kind of the way of life at school for a couple of years, and didn't turn into a particularly nice person, I suppose. Left school at 16 with no exams, smoking too much weed, not doing much else with my time. Got a job selling mobile phones when they were transportables this big.
Huge.
They really
They were car phones. They were actual car phones that you put in the car.
Well, funnily enough, the firm I used to work for was actually called Car Phone Installations, and it was the first firm that in the UK that used to go around and actually install the kind of old Motorola and NEC style handsets in cars. Did that for about 2 or 3 years. Then moved across to home improvements, double glazing, sold that for a little while. Basically, a friend of mine was making more money out of it. So I jumped out of the mobile industry. Just as that kind of blew up, I then moved across to the home improvement, made some money out of that. I then at 21 moved to the Canary Islands, moved to Tenerife, and ended up setting up a business over there and chartering mock pirate galleons, 3 times a week in the summer and running booze cruises. So we had a team of sellers on the streets who'd sell boat party tickets. Then we'd take people out on a boat 3 times a week, get them horribly drunk, play some stupid games, then sell them videos, funnily enough, edited videos of the day and the evening. So I did that for about 4 years. Met a girl over there, knew her about 3 or 4 weeks. She fell pregnant. We came back to the UK. So that was kind of the end of my journey in Tenerife. Came back to the UK in December, freezing cold. Started off labouring on a building site in Milton Keynes, which was near where my family were living. I then got a job at Norwich Union, or Aviva, as they're then called, booking appointments for financial advisors. And I was 25, 26 years old in a call centre, booking appointments, and hated the job really badly. Newborn baby, grotty little flat, no money. And one day the financial advisors came in and I decided I was going to do that. So I had a meeting with my manager a couple of weeks later at like your formal one-to-one. She said, have you thought about what you want to do, Simon? I said, yes, I want to be a financial advisor. And she laughed in my face and told me it would take me 10 years to do that. So red rag to a bull, bought some books. 6 months later, got a job as a trainee financial advisor at Sun Life Financial of Canada. Left there, told her to stick her job where the sun doesn't shine. Was there for a couple of years. I'll fast forward, it will be here all day. But I then spent 10 years in financial services doing different business development, sales leadership roles until 2008. I set up my own business, which was a fee charging independent financial advisory practice. Within 5 years, we had $250 million under management, lots of staff, a very, very nice lifestyle, lots of money. And Simon lost direction completely. So I went from, I suppose, being obsessed with money my whole life and thinking that having money was when really it perhaps wasn't. I ended up becoming very rich financially under an awful lot of pressure. Went from doing a job that I loved, which was dealing with people every day, to then dealing with staff issues, compliance, regulation, all the things that I perhaps didn't enjoy. Then got remarried back in 2015. We had a little girl. At the same time, my mum got diagnosed with Parkinson's. I took a stupid decision with the business and bought another firm for 3.5 million in the UK. Within a few months, it was a vanity purchase completely. Within a few months, I was struggling. I was trying to find, £100,000 every month to pay all the bills that I didn't have. And it was just constant for about 9 or 10 months. My wife then turns around and told me she was pregnant. We then found out it was twins. And for anyone who's seen Blackadder, a British comedy, there's a sketch, a part of that show where he puts pants on his head and pencils up his nose and says "wibble." And I think really that's what happened to me. I walked out of the office one day and never went back. And we went from being millionaires to bankrupt. My wife kicked me out. I was a mess, I'll be honest with you. I was taking cocaine, I was drinking alcohol, walked away from the business and basically self-destructed. It all came to a point where I came off my R1 motorbike, 110 miles an hour, now got a titanium arm, half a shoulder that doesn't work, bit of a hip that's been mangled around.
Hey,
and
we can rebuild them bigger, faster, stronger.
You know what? It's good. It's good. But you know what? The ironic thing is, so I ended up from driving 100 grand sports cars on one Thursday to the Monday, my wife had kicked me out. I was living in a caravan in the middle of a field with a bicycle. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Didn't seem like it at the time, but it gave me for the first time in my life the chance to, one, spend some time on my own and realize that I'd spent my whole life trying to escape myself rather than anything else. I found Buddhism in a big way. I did a lot of reading on psychology, and I decided, my wife and I got back together. I didn't move back in to start with, but she had been very supportive throughout, let me continue seeing the children. Once I'd stopped drinking for about a year, I haven't had a drink now. I see you drinking your beer there and wondering what it tastes like. Haven't had a drink now for 3 years.
But you know what? That's good though. And it's crazy how that turns out because, some people can't.
Do you know what? It's my wife has a glass of wine every night. I'm not one of these people who, the fact I don't drink doesn't mean I hate drinking. Right. It's just that I know from how I was in the past that drinking didn't make me a particularly nice person. And I've also, I suppose, in my mind now associated that with all the bad things that's happened in my life. So for me, I just don't like the taste of it anymore. It's really weird. I can't explain it. But anyway, I'm digressing, aren't I? So,
dude, we ramble on the show. You're good, buddy. You're good. That's how we do here.
Oh, good. As long as I can ramble and digress, we're all good.
You're good, man. It's all right.
So my wife said to me, when we met, I was pretty happy. Life was good. We had everything we wanted for a long time. And the one thing she said to me when we got back together is that the money was never important for her. And she said, what's important is your happiness. And I said, well, look, I don't want staff again. I don't want, ironically, my own business again. What I really want to do is either something I absolutely love or something that I can go to work to in the morning and come home at night and switch off. So it was going to be one of two things. I was going to be a painter and decorator because I've always liked drawing and art and I'm quite creative. Or I was going to do something in computing because I'd always been, ironically, the person in the office, despite having an outsourced service provider for IT, I was always the go-to person because I'd always played around with computers. So in my mind, I thought I was quite an expert when it came to computers. We'll move on and find out why that wasn't true in a moment. So I've just worth pointing out at this point, I haven't been on social media ever. I've always had a bit of a problem with it. I haven't wanted to share my information, my children's, my family's online. And I was always the pariah and always seen as the awkward person for that, because I think people just thought I was being awkward. But I genuinely wasn't. I just don't think it's right that we should share our children's information online without their kind of, I suppose it's a big responsibility, isn't it? Sharing loads of pictures of your kids. I've got teenagers who then go on social media themselves and sometimes go on in horror, some of their friends, and wonder why their parents have shared all these pictures of them. So I've always been a little bit hesitant.
Let's dig into that a little bit because, again, this is Security Happy Hour. And one of the big things I've put out and, tried to help people with is securing their social media because, yes, we run into these problems where, especially when Facebook first came out and MySpace and all these other things, everybody was sharing everything from the food they ate every day to the pictures of their kids from the time they were born till they're, however old now. And so it happened a lot and nothing was locked down. And now kids are doing it. Actual kids that technically shouldn't have social media have social media.
Yeah.
And so they're doing all this. So I don't blame you for not doing that, because even myself anymore, I share CyberWarriorStudios stuff or funny memes. Like I don't, unless I have a good picture of my kids and me, and I'm just like, you know what, let me brag a little bit that I've got an
Yeah.
awesome family. I don't really share that kind of information. And a lot of that came from my time in the Army of, look, I don't want you to know when I'm leaving. I don't want you to know when I'm coming home. I don't want you to know when the house is empty. Like, I don't trust people that much.
Well, I suppose I should be honest at this point as well. And whilst I've never been a criminal, right, I'm not going to say I'm not a crook, and I've never been a crook. Although I've hung around with some fairly salubrious people in the past, I've also hung around with people who don't really want their lives shouted about online, whether it's due to the nature of their job or the fact that they're just not interested. So it's always been a hang-up of mine. But the point of it was, I had no real understanding other than the research I did briefly in 2020 or late 2019, early 2020 on the technology market. The cybersecurity market was clearly the one that was blowing up. So my research consisted of me looking around to see what jobs there were. And I did that using Google. Like I said, no social media accounts. So I found a website called CyberWarrior. I paid the whatever it was a month, $10 a month to be a member. And I started off on looking at what roles there were, and I nailed it down. So I wanted to be a penetration tester. And lots of reasons. One, like breaking things. Two, I thought I could be a little bit like James Bond and try and break into businesses. Always kind of wanted to do that as well. And it was the glamorization of it that made it quite attractive. So I looked into it, started doing this course, followed the pathway, did CompTIA A+. Then I got completely distracted with Hack the Box. I was probably doing 10 hours a day. I suppose it's worth mentioning at this point, and you've probably already guessed, I self-diagnosed back in 2020 with ADHD. So I'm very good at talking a lot and hyper-focusing. So I suppose it's important to note that when I've made huge successes in my life in the past, it's been after periods where I've had a pretty shitty time. And I suppose I've been recovering, refocusing. And I suppose it's like an addiction, isn't it? So for me, the studying became my new addiction. And I was obsessed with it. But I went down a rabbit hole with Hack the Box really, really badly. And I think it was June 2020, I applied for my first job, thinking that I could go in as a junior pen tester. I had a really lovely chat with a chap from F-Secure. The first 20 minutes of the interview was amazing, got on really well. We then got on to the technical side of it, where I clearly failed, right, and didn't know as much as I thought. So these are his words to me. I said, what do I need to do? What do I need to do to get myself into the industry? He said, Simon, what you need to do is go and pass OSCP. So taking into account, I didn't know what that meant. I mentioned that I lost everything and went bankrupt. So money was kind of a tight thing. At the same time, I helped my wife set up her own business in 2020, which was a virtual assistant business. And thankfully, that was set up a month before the pandemic hit. So income-wise, that took off really well, and we had money coming in. So my wife paid for me to do the OSCP, and I think did 3 upgrades for the lab time as well, which was extremely expensive. I clearly failed that in, I think it was September 2020.
You're not the only one.
I know that, but do you know what? I would have spent the money on it because it was a good experience. It was the most fun, frustrating, irritating, hard work, joyful 24 hours of my life trying to get through those bloody boxes. But what it did make me realize, and this is why I mentioned the fact that I used to do competitive sport, I don't like losing very much. And it made me realize that I was never going to be as good as I wanted to be in that role. So just before Christmas 2020, my wife said to me, well, look, my business is going well. I was helping her market that online, and we'd nailed quite a lot of work through the freelancer sites as well. So she said, why don't you continue helping me with my business and do a degree in cybersecurity? So I booked on a part-time degree, bachelor's degree in cybersecurity. This is October 2020. And my intention was for the next 6 years to potter around the garden. We now live in this remote farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. I've kind of got in touch with nature, like spending time in the garden. So I kind of envisioned the next 6 years of my life pottering around, feeding the birds, studying, helping my wife. So we'll move on to some social engineering now. So it's now
Nice.
It's now January 2021, and this is definitely the best way to break into the industry, although probably not the most ethical. I was on Facebook pretending to be my younger, more attractive wife to sell her video promotion material. And I came across a guy on there called Ben, who was a pen tester and had his own firm in the UK. Did the introduction. Hello, Ben. I'm Laura. Blah blah blah. My husband's Simon. He wants to be a pen tester. Can I introduce you? So did the intro. Told him straight away that it was a lie. It was me, not my wife. He found it funny. We struck up a friendship. He'd spent, I think, 6 years at NCC Group as a pen tester. He'd then worked for another couple of firms doing consultancy work, and then decided about 18 months to 2 years before to set up his own business. And he had a web developer and a white hat hacker. They developed a tool that combined OpenVAS and Burp Suite to produce a deliverable report. I suppose as much as of an automated vulnerability scan / test that you could do. And for me, who'd been spending loads of time on Burp Suite and Nmap and all these other things, it was exciting. So I said to him, if you need some help, I've been in sales for 30 years. If you want me to try and help you take it to market, I'd love to. We ended up striking up a bit of a deal on me helping him with some bits and pieces. I put a sales plan in place for him, did some market research, looked at different routes to market. His product wasn't quite ready at the time. So he asked me if I could look at getting him some freelancer work for pen testing. And it just blew up. So I used the same methodology I'd set up for my wife through Upwork and another couple of sites. And we ended up getting regular work in really quickly for him, and it did fantastically well. I then spoke to, must be nearly 150, 200 different people in the industry. The contract was only 6 months, so it came to an end. It was June last year. Finished what I needed to do for him. Product was launched, and I was kind of unemployed again in a way. And going back to my mum, I told you that she'd been diagnosed with Parkinson's. She's been at end of life care now for just over a year, and it's been quite tough, as you can imagine. And last June, I had a phone call. She'd been rushed into hospital, and I didn't expect her to come out. And what I would have done a few years before that is cracked open the whiskey cabinet, had a line of cocaine, and forgot all about it. And the thing is, I didn't. And I came in my office, shut myself away, and refocused on some stuff. I just noticed how glitchy my camera is. Refocused on some stuff that I've been doing for my wife the year before. And one of those was I'd fitted out a mighty network for her. We called it Social Alchemy. And it was aimed at helping businesses through video content. And when I started working for the penetration testing firm, I just parked all this stuff on the side, literally dropped my wife's business. We closed it down, and I was just helping Ben with his firm. And it got to the point where I came across some of the stuff that we were still paying for, and this site was one of them. So that afternoon, I looked for a domain name, found InfoSec Live, went on Canva, created some graphics, put up a logo, and the resources that I'd collected myself over the past few months. And I felt that I could add benefit to the industry by sharing some of my soft skills, I suppose, skills, and also the stuff that's helped me build businesses and relate that to cyber. And it was more a cathartic exercise for me to try and focus on something and add a bit of value. I launched it one afternoon, and it's just blown up. It was never meant to be anything other than a website to help people. So that's kind of how I've stumbled and fallen into the industry. The intention was to continue working, and I haven't really until the last couple of months done any work since then either. I've literally been focused on this community day in, day out.
And that's amazing though, because a lot of people think that you mentioned social media, and we talked about it earlier. Everybody puts the best of themselves online. They only post the good, or they'll post, I'm going to complain about somebody else. They very rarely complain about themselves. And so it's like they could do no wrong. It's never their fault. And so the fact that you've come out and, in your journey, we see the ups, the downs, you can hit rock bottom. Sometimes that's what it takes to get your life in order. And, for so many people, that's what they need, because they're literally at rock bottom and they see no way out.
There's too much misinformation in the industry. And the other thing is, I was lucky where I did my own research, although it was crap. I didn't do my research very well, I could have stumbled onto something where I'd have ended up throwing that money away. So, I mean, you said about OSCP. Was it a waste? Well, yeah, it was, because I didn't pass the exam. But what a great experience. And if anything, it's the thing that taught me that I'm not going to be a pen tester. Because, I mean, we said this on the call before we went live. We were talking about the perception of the role. And my perception of what a penetration tester actually did was this glamorized kind of ideal of someone skulking around, breaking into buildings and having fun trying to smash stuff all day. I had no idea that you spent half of your time putting reports together. And
I'd say about 80% of your time.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not naive. It was very naive. But again, with the glamorization and the gamification of a lot of the learning in the industry, which is amazing, by the way, and I think helping people get engaged with it, there's also a danger with that in not having relatable skills, perhaps. Because
and you're right though. Let's just call it for what it is. They make pen testing sexy, right? That's
yeah.
Oh my God, you want to be a hacker? So the only way to be a hacker is to break into things. Which, go back and look at the how it actually started. No, that's not the only way. But it's like, oh, be a pen tester and a red teamer. So you do one engagement, which may take a day or a couple days, may take a week or two. You're going to spend the next 3 weeks writing a report for that one engagement. So it's your writing ability, the ability to relate information to executives and the people that are going to remediate the issues. And a lot of people don't see that. So when they first hear cybersecurity and being a hacker, they're like, oh, I want to break into things. It's like I did the same thing for years. That's what my goal. And yes, I'm one of the lucky few that passed the OSCP, but my goal was always to be a pen tester. But it got to the point I got the OSCP not to be a pen tester anymore. I got it just because it was a goal of mine. That was legitimately the only reason.
You know what? I'm never going to be a pen tester, but I am going to pass that fucking exam at some point.
There you go. Do it.
I'm not having it beat me. The ironic thing is, I suppose, is that I've ended up coming around full circle and doing exactly what it is I've always done all my life. I'm just now doing it in an industry that I've got a real passion and interest in. And I think that's lovely, because I say that I haven't actually got a job, so I'm not actually being paid as much as I'm not earning an income from it. However, we have managed to now make the InfoSec Live community completely self-sustainable from an income point of view, and we've done that through not having a glitchy camera where it looks like I've got we've done that through sponsorship and strategic partnerships. So, I mean, for example, Jerry Auger from Simply Cyber, he very kindly sponsored one of our streams. We've got My Cyber Path for some of the cyber career days. Just signed a strategic partnership with ThreatGen. So anyone who purchases through the link that we've got, we get a bit of income. And it's just been about trying to find ways of keeping the community free, because that's why it's worked so well. That's why it's helped so many people. And as soon as you try and monetize that, it completely ruins it. And it's been really, really hard for me the last few months, because I haven't been working. And it's got to the point on some occasions where I haven't had the money to pay the subscription for the platform. And it's been a real struggle. But it's back to, how do you get into the industry? You demonstrate what you're good at. And what the community has done for me, unintentionally, admittedly, is it showcased what I can do. And off the back of that, I've been doing some consultancy work, creative consultancy work for an American firm, Valor Risk Management. And that was picked up only through the stuff I've done in the community. And I'll give a quick, shouldn't say anything, I haven't signed the paperwork, but it looks like I'm actually starting a job, a real job, not this Monday, the Monday after, in cybersecurity. And that, again, is all off the back of me creating the community and helping other people.
So then the cyber overlords are going to come tell you what to do now. Like they tell me
absolutely.
What to do.
Yeah, I'll have targets and everything. But you know what? But I'm excited, because it's a job that, without saying what it is in too much detail, it's a very successful firm in the UK who've got some very large OT type clients, and they want to break into America. So for me, it's super exciting.
And that'll
More
be
soon.
Yeah, definitely. And that'll be awesome. And, you talk about community, and one of the biggest things that's one of the biggest proponents I've been big on, because I wouldn't be where I'm at without the support of the community and friends and family and everything else like that. It takes a village. And so, this cybersecurity as a whole and as an industry is so complex and so diverse and so many different things going on everywhere that no one person can know everything.
Do you know what my biggest bugbear is at the moment? I'm not a youngster, so I'm nearly 50, and you see a lot of people my age who are trying to reskill or come into this industry, and they're all looking for entry-level jobs. And that drives me absolutely insane because these aren't entry-level people. They might not have the technical cybersecurity knowledge that they need, but some of these, thanks, Mary, some of these people bring some awesome skills from previous careers that bring them in at a much higher level than entry level. And I'm trying to educate people and help people find kind of opportunities in relation to that. I mean, you're talking about veterans. All I hear from people are, we've got a lack of critical thinking. And then I see on the left hand all these veterans looking for work who've all got critical thinking built in. I don't know. It just seems there's a huge disconnect at the moment.
And I think there is, but I think there's also there's nothing wrong with going into entry level, whether or not they belong there.
No.
But you've got yourself, KevTech, who's gotten countless people at this point jobs, in IT.
He's done some amazing work, Kev has. Well done, Kev.
And you see these things, and I think it just comes down to be able to translate those soft skills. And when you talk veterans, as a vet myself, I lucked out in that I had already, I guess you would say I never drank the Kool-Aid, right? So as an Army, as a soldier, as a grunt, I was never hooah. It was, look, I'm a fobbit. I'm going to go sit behind my computer screen and do what I love. Your PT scores, yeah, I'll pass it, but I really don't care. For me, it was, I'm going to do my job and I'm going to be the best damn person at my job.
Yeah.
And so for me, I took my ability in the Army and my ways of communicating with officers and commanders and my subordinates as an NCO. I was in charge of teams and I led teams. And I was like, okay, I've done all this. And then I took hey, I've tried to help people that are like, I kill people and blow shit up, and turn it into, you led teams and you were able to manage this amount of money and keep it safe because guess what? Your striker never died.
Do you know what? It's absolutely spot on. And the thing is, you can even get, my soft skills, I think, are good. My communication skills, I think, are good. But when it comes to putting a resume or CV together, mine was terrible. And again,
I think they're all horrible. I hate resumes and CVs.
It's then learning from the people you've got around you. And we've been very lucky to have some recruiters come in. We've got Joseph Cooper being one, Musa Ayoub's another one who's come into the community and help people rewrite them. And I shouldn't really say this live, but I sent out 30 job applications in a week with my first resume that I put together, which was shit, by the way. And I got absolutely nothing back. Musa then helped me redo it. And I sent out 3 and I got 3 back. And in fact, I've been offered 3 positions off the back of it. Again, it's so important to be able to succinctly get your message across in such a short period of time. And it is bollocks. We all know that. But you've just got to play the game and know what bollocks to write on there, isn't it?
And that's what it comes down to is, look, I'm all for changing the system. As someone who loves being a hacker and loves finding more efficient and better ways to do things, I'd love to change the system. But until you get into the system, it is very, 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 very difficult to change the system.
It is.
So if you want to make a difference, play the game, get in where you need to, work your way up to where you can say, you know what? We don't need these credentials on here. We don't, nope. I don't want that on that's not going to be on the job description. Get that out of there. And look, I don't want to see a resume. Have them call me. Get a hold of me.
The firm I think I'm going to start with, the process, whilst I did send them a resume, the interview process was them paying for me to go down to London, putting me up in a hotel, taking me out for a meal and drinks for 5 hours. Second interview was kind of much the same, but on a remote basis. And that's how you find out whether someone's going to work in the team, I think. But can I just jump back? I want to just mention something that I feel I've skimmed over. And I don't think I've mentioned enough how much of an arrogant prick I was in the past and why that's relevant to where we are now. And Kev said it in the chat there about helping other people. And do you know what, Kev? It's helping other people that got me better. I've got to be honest with you. And I'm not saying I'm a Buddhist or a Hindu or anything like that, but I think there's a lot we can learn from doing the right thing and reaching out and helping other people as much as we can. And all of this success I've seen recently has come off the back of helping others. And that all started with feeding the birds in the garden, little simple things, to kind of giving up your own time to help other people, whether it's giving up time for charity or helping people in the industry. It is a completely selfish act. And anyone who tells you any different is a liar. Helping people is one of the most rewarding experiences ever. I spent 30 years of my adult life as an arrogant, egotistical, money-driven prick who only ever thought of himself. And do you know what? I was the most miserable rich person you'd ever meet. Ironically, the last 3 years I've been poorer than I've ever been in my life, and I've been happier. It's now
Have you really though?
Yeah, do you know I have? Honestly,
I'm not talking financially. Have you truly been poorer?
Yes. No, financially. Sorry, if you're talking financially, yes. In life, absolutely not. And that again is down to working out what is and what isn't important. So for me before, what was important was having the biggest, flashiest car and the nicest speedboat and a Rolex watch collection and all this shit that didn't matter. And when it came down to it and you got fuck all and you realized that actually it was the people who loved you and the people around you that mattered. And I treated them like shit for years. And that's a really hard lesson for them. And a hard lesson, the hardest lesson is to hold your hands up and admit that you were a prick, admit that you were wrong. But admitting it's all very well. It's then a case of doing what you can to make up for the shit that you've done wrong in the past. And then just trying to change the way you live your life moving forward. And for me, it's about mindset is everything. And we don't need money to be content. We can be content with absolutely nothing. It's success is a mindset, not a destination, without a doubt.
And it's all about the journey, and it's all about what gets us there. And you know, I was in the military for 13 years before they medically retired me. I was never rich. And to this day I live paycheck to paycheck. And you know, it's one of those things where that doesn't bother me. It doesn't, because at the end of the day, like you said, it's not about the money. It's not about what you have. It's what I can give back. So even with this show and my channel and what you do, it's not about what we get from it financially. It's what we're able to provide to others. Your story may help somebody that thinks they can't do it. They're done. They give up.
I hope it does. Yeah, if I look back, 2018, I was like less than 9 stone in weight. I'll share a picture online one day of what I looked like, but I was an absolute wreck. And I didn't think I even wanted a job again or go to the supermarket in 2019. Never mind work again. And it was a complete reset for me in that I was quite well known in the area as well. So quite a notorious businessman, I suppose. I was in the press all the time. I was helping people all the time. It was a real fall from grace for me. And it's the best thing that ever happened, because one, you work out who's really important, who's left sticking around, who's helping you when the £100 notes are dried up and there's not free money everywhere all the time. And it then allows you to appreciate, I suppose, what you have got. And what I have got is an amazing family and some amazing friends that I didn't appreciate. And ironically, I said I was adopted earlier on, and my adopted mother and I have never had a really that close a relationship until the last couple of years. And, you know, my adopted mum and I are now like this, and it's lovely. She's at end of life care. She's chilled about it. She's accepting. Her and I have kind of rekindled not rekindled. We've kind of got a relationship for the first time in 47 years. It's just a shame I had to destroy everything so spectacularly to do that. But I had this conversation yesterday. I think I've been scared to have money again. And I think that's been a bit of a hang up subconsciously for me. And I think I'm over that. Yeah, I'm over that now. And I don't know if it was Tom McKenzie, chap in the UK, who said this to me, that money's an amplifier. You know, money doesn't make everyone a prick. Money will amplify how you are. And I'm hoping, not that I ever want to chase money again, but I'd just like to do something good with money when I have it again, because the one thing that keeps me awake at night is the amount of money I've wasted in the past when I could have done some good with it. So that's probably my biggest regret.
Yeah, and I think with cybersecurity, there's a lot of money to be had. And let's be honest, do I wish my channel was monetized and I did, had an income off of it? Sure, I do. I ain't gonna lie. Again, as selflessly as we all try to be, there's always gonna be that selfish part that wishes we got something back in return. At least, especially something that can bring money.
The thing is, though, I haven't said this before online, but you have to be careful because whilst I was getting so much reward out of the community, it got to a point probably about 2 or 3 months ago where I started to resent it. And I started to resent it because I was putting 60, 80 hours a week into it. No one had asked me to, by the way. I've done all this myself. No. And then I've got no money and we've got no money because I'm not working. I'm just helping people all the time. And that was a tricky time for me. And I actually had to take a week out and kind of take a step back and realize that no one's asked you to do this. So you've kind of done it yourself, fella. And had a word with myself. And then, and you know what? You talk about mindset and how important it is. From the moment I did that, you say about the monetization, whilst I'm not over 1,000 subscribers, which I think is one of the things, and also 10,000 watched hours, I have managed to monetize our channel in 6 months. And that's by getting other people to sponsor. But again, that's because I've utilized what I've been good at for the last 30 years, which is people and networking. And I think that at the moment, especially for breaking into the industry or improving your career, you can't go wrong with developing a strong network of connections, without a doubt.
No, and that leads me to the next thing. So we talk about resumes.
Seamless, that was.
Right. We talk about resumes and we talked about all this other stuff about how you finally found a job and things like that. Well, we'll see. We'll wait for that to be finalized. But, really what it comes down to, though, is network.
It is.
Because one of the biggest things I've always said is the automated resume scanning systems are trash.
Yeah.
It really takes knowing somebody and being like, hey, here's my resume. Can you take a look at it? Now, you don't do that right away. You don't, link up on a hiring manager and be like, hey, look, dude, I applied 1,000,000 times. Look at this. What am I doing wrong?
Well, you're going to love the answer to this then, because whilst I did send a resume off for this job, the reason I got put in touch with them is because I'd networked and built up a relationship with a US-based recruiter back in March last year, who, when I then said to him, I'm now looking for a job, his friend's firm, who he's known for a long time, were then looking for someone. And he went, I've got just the job for you. And he's not even getting paid for it either. So again, it's not what you know, it's who you know half the time, isn't it? And the other corny saying is your network is your net worth, I think is one that I've heard a few times.
Yeah. And it's huge. I tell everybody, network. Look, LinkedIn goes up and down. I get a bunch of trash on there and I get a lot of good stuff. It goes up and down. But the reality it is, between Twitter, which can be toxic, and LinkedIn, which can be toxic, well, fuck it, I'll just say it. All of social media can be toxic.
Yeah.
It's still, if you interact and you meet the right people and you make a name for yourself, you will never be out of work for more than I'd say 2 months.
No.
Just with the hiring process, all you got to do is reach out to your connections and be like, hey, look, I'm looking for a job. I got laid off.
I've got to be honest, I've turned down probably 10 jobs in the last couple of months, and all of them have come about through people that I know. Without a doubt. It's just a shame that some of them are from firms that you'd never want to work for.
Look, I've done the same thing. I'm more loyal. So to me, it's about loyalty.
Yeah.
I got picked up by an organization that when I thought I was going to be out of work, they were like, hey, yep, you're hired. Here you go. It was less money, but that wasn't a big thing to me. They brought me in. They've helped me out. They've done a lot of good for me, a lot of good. And so I'm loyal. So I've actually gotten calls from people while employed, and they'd be like, hey, we're hiring. And I've given them obscure numbers, like obscene amounts of salary, just to see if they'd meet it. And they're like, well, we can't meet that. But they were like, we'll give you like 60 grand more. And I'm like, no, I'll pass. I'm good. You didn't meet the number I gave you. So no, it ain't going to work. But the reality is I wasn't going to leave anyways. I give them an obscene amount thinking they're not even going to come close. I ain't gonna lie, the one company did
happiness is so important. And I know we're not always in a position where we can choose our dream job, but we can certainly choose to, or we make the decision on how we feel about going to work every day. And I suppose that's the other thing that I've learned is trying to be your best. You said it earlier, at absolutely everything you do, whether it's sweeping the yard, painting the wall, passing OSCP. I think one day the mindset is just do your best at everything. It's like you try and be the best dad that you can, the best husband that you can. And I think that's half the battle, isn't it?
It is. A lot of us, and you mentioned ADHD and things like that. And I'm the same way, right? I'll go and I'll jump around and do a bunch of different things. And honestly, if you look at like my Tech Tuesday playlist, it's nuts. I'm all over the place on there because I will literally like talk about one topic, then be like, you know what, I'm interested in something different this week. So we're gonna do something different. Screw it. Let's just go with it. And so I do these things.
Welcome to my world.
Right. And so like I do the same thing with my kids. Like I'm like, all right, we're gonna do this. And like I was in hacker boxes for a while with them and building stuff. And then I was like, A, it's expensive, and B, I don't feel like doing it right now. So we're just gonna walk away from that. So I do all my books. I have books. And I read maybe a quarter of it, and I'm like, oh, this looks cool. Let's go read this one instead.
You know what? I've got the biggest started but not finished Audible collection of anyone on earth.
Wait, Audible? How do you do that with Audible? Audible, you just gotta. You don't even gotta read
easy.
it. You just gotta listen.
What you do is you put it on just before you go to bed, and you start listening to it, and then by the time you wake up, you've forgotten what you've listened to, and it's just a disaster.
You know, let's move on to the next book. We're just gonna go to the next one. But yeah, it's crazy how these things work out, and people talk about it. I've never been diagnosed with ADHD. Do I think I have it? I do, because I will. You mentioned being in Hack the Box.
Yeah.
Prior to me going for OSCP and GREM, I had all but the two hardest boxes done on Hack the Box.
Yeah.
So back at the end of 2019, I had all of them knocked out. And then I haven't touched it since. Like I logged in and I was like, I'm not. I'm not in the mood. I'm not going to do it. I did try Hack Me. I started paying for that and was like, I did like 2 days and I was like, no, not going to do it. You know what? Let's go try this video editing a little bit.
I think, by the way, I don't want people to think that I hate the gamification platforms, because I don't. I just think for people like me who get a little bit obsessed, okay, let's change that, who get a little bit focused with things, it's not always that healthy, because I'd built up this kind of excellent skill set of being able to do all this different stuff. But I actually had no fucking idea why I was doing it or how that related to the job. And I think that was, that was bright. That was...
It's been on for a while. I finally was like, hey, dude, you've been chilling there for like no reason.
Wake up!
Go to the Screwsaver.
So I think people get too focused on it, and especially for those trying to come in from scratch, starting off in the industry. I mean, I'm going to say something controversial here. I don't think there is. This might be seen as gatekeeping, but it's certainly not. These entry-level jobs, is it entry-level? Because I was trying to come in at entry-level with what I would call a seriously decent grounding in IT for 25 years. I didn't know anywhere enough. So I think you've got to have a certain level of understanding before you come in. It's a controversial subject, I know. So let's talk about it. What do you think?
So we've got the downside of gamification is that sometimes you get caught up in trying to get ahead.
Agree.
You don't spend enough time actually learning.
Yep.
That is huge. And
Kev said it in the comments, fundamentals. And
I say reading is fundamental. But yeah, the fundamentals are huge. So you came with a background in IT. Kev,
you say background in IT. I never worked in IT, but I'd always.
You don't have to.
I was illegally downloading films before anyone had LimeWire.
There you go. But Kev, talks about fundamentals, and he teaches the fundamentals. He does networking and all these other videos. And so I look at it. I want to say, yes, there is an entry level for cybersecurity, but at the same time, I want to say no. And by saying no, it's not that I think you should have to have enterprise experience as an analyst or something like that to hit entry level. No. I think you should have an understanding of what it takes to do that job and a decent grounding and knowledge base of what that job is going to be and how to do it.
But then I look at my 16-year-old, right, as a good example. He probably understands more through his learning on the process of what I was doing with Nmap, Wireshark, and all these different things more than I did. And when I say no such thing as entry level, he'd focused on that area, I suppose, specifically for a long period of time, whereas I'd been general for a long time and then tried to think I had enough general knowledge to relate it to this specific area. And I think I didn't even have the fundamentals down, as Kev mentioned, and that can be a real hindrance perhaps.
Yeah, it can. And you're like me. And I will say that I'm a generalist, which is why I'm a consultant now, because I do great at, if you give me time to do the research, I can learn anything and give you the right information. But to sit here and say, oh, I'm a senior level red teamer. No. I'd look at that shit and be like, dude, I can't get into that. Someone, some 17-year-old can come up and be like, dude, I'm in 5 seconds. Got you. And I'm like, how'd you do that? But
he doesn't understand the risk and control functions. He doesn't understand the impact on the business. He can't explain to the C-suite why it's important for them to invest. These are the differences, aren't they?
Exactly. And that's where I am. I'm more a generalist. I love cybersecurity. I love everything about it. I've done Hack the Box. I've done Try Hack Me. I've done Blue Team. I've done, I've worked with GRC teams. I've done all this stuff. So no, I will never claim to be an expert in any field of cybersecurity. But I will say, if you were talking to me at any level, I can speak to you and understand what you're saying. I may not be able to do that particular job, but you give me enough time and I can if I have to. I'm not a bounty hunter. I don't go looking for bug bounties. I wish I did, because some of them fools make bank. I mean, let's be honest. They make bank. But Kev put it up here, and it's so true. Entry-level jobs can be labeled entry-level, but you need to know basics. Can you learn it? Yes. Imagine building a house with no foundation. The house will fall down. And I think that is something that we don't take into account, is that I love seeing people come over from other career fields, but you have to have that foundational knowledge. I'm not saying you had to have worked in the career field, but you have to have the foundational knowledge. If you don't have that knowledge, if I question you and you can't answer these questions that are more level 1 skills, you're not entry level. You're still learning.
I think that goes back again to people getting into the industry for the right reasons. So going back to my story, I've always loved tech. So for me, this is kind of a passion. A lot of people are trying to get in because they see the training providers telling them they can earn 100 grand a year on their first job. And I've said this on every stream I've been on. If you're trying to get into this industry for the money, you're an idiot, because there are so many other ways of making money that are easier than this. Trust me.
Apparently you need to write a book, Simon.
Do you know, well, funny you should mention that. I am, but I will never publish it. It's aimed for my children when I'm not here. And obviously, I've given you the kind of abridged version today because we're online. But I would happily share the warts and all version at some point, just not recorded on the internet.
There you go. But it's funny because Kimberly talked about, being a generalist, you're versatile and always willing to learn and constantly learning new things.
Oh,
like,
Kimberly,
shiny. Look at that.
Shiny.
That is so me. It's every time. Like, I see a new news article and literally it'll be like, this is a 10-minute read. I'll skim through 5 minutes just to get the 5-minute read out of it of what the big details are. And then I move on to the next. Like, that was cool. All right, next one. Like, what's the new blinky lights coming out? Let's see what they can do. What buzzwords are big this week? Let's figure it out.
I drive my wife insane because I'm literally like a child with a poor attention span. I'll see something else and I'll latch onto that, and then it'll be something else. And that's why I know I love cybersecurity so much, because it's been, I think it's a year and a week now since I've kind of been working in the industry, and it's the happiest I've been. And I think helping people is a big thing of that. But it's also in this industry, there's a lot of people who are lacking in confidence as well, and wrongly lacking in confidence.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I think going back to what we were here to talk about, the kind of community side of it, that's where community helps. And I haven't done this, the people have done it. You know, you see people within my community, other people's Discord channels, other communities reaching out and helping each other on a daily basis. And that's what it's all about. And I've never known any industry where people are so willing to help as well. Not all of them. There's some real arrogant pricks in the industry as well.
Right? There are. But I've got a whole slew of Monday videos that tell you you can fucking do it. Get off your ass and just do it. Quit talking down on yourself, because we all had to start somewhere. And we all had to, even me with, you know, I got letters out the ass after my name, and I still look at people and go, I cannot figure out what you're doing. Like, no. I'm in the wrong career field. I quit. Like, I've had those days where I'm like, I don't belong here. But at the end of the day, we're all learning. We're all growing. And so, yes, just like
it's the most fast-paced, changing industry in the world. I mean, it's going to be the biggest support industry in the world by a mile within a couple of years. And I think it's a really exciting time to be in the industry, and also an exciting time to be able to shape the industry, because if you look at the industry as a person, it's kind of a teenager, isn't it? It's still in its infancy. And the big providers are the ones who are making all the noise. They're selling magic boxes to companies that don't work. The real message is that we need people to be educated, but you can't do that in a magic box solution that these big companies have got the marketing plans to sell. So the problem is at the moment is you've got real people trying to give advice, big companies trying to sell you a product that will solve all your problems, and this massive disconnect with firms not engaging with cybersecurity.
And even worse is the fact that, hey, this will solve all your problems, which it may. I mean, we don't know, because the companies never hire the people to actually learn the solution and implement it the right way. So it's like, hey, let's turn this sumbitch on and we're good. We don't need to hire anybody. And you're like, dude, like, do you have a firewall? Yes. Does it log? Yes, we turn that shit on too. Does it block anything? What do you mean?
No.
Shit, I forgot something. Like, hey, does anybody know how to do that?
Yeah. You got a question in there. How do you determine if someone has all the foundational knowledge? That's a good question. Do employers do a pre-assessment? They should do, really, shouldn't they? The way I found out is by sort of failing and realizing that I didn't have it when I did my OSCP. I think the whole interview process, in my opinion, is broken. The whole recruitment process is broken. CVs and resumes are never going to give anyone an idea of who you really are. Also, let's not beat around the bush. There's a lot of introverted people in the industry, which for an introverted person, they hate the whole interview situation. They're never going to be on their game as much as someone who's an extrovert is. And when the job is probably more aimed at introverted people, is it fair to have a process that sways to extroverts? It just seems crazy to me.
And it is, but yes, us in this industry are very introverted, unless you get us out to a conference and we have
shiny things,
right? All these shiny things. We're gonna go say hi. Hey, you got swag? Let me get that. All right, let me get all the stickers.
I love a sticker. That's an age
I'm moving on to posters. I've come to posters. All right, that's what I do. But yeah, I mean, I love talking to people. Hell, I do this show. But at the same time, I have to talk to like-minded people in terms of cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Other beliefs, I'll have different conversations all day. But if you're not into at least cybersecurity, if I can't talk to you about IT or cybersecurity, we're going to have a disconnect. I'm not going to be able to relate to you. So like going to bars, I used to go all the time in my younger days. Now, as I'm older, I'm like, I don't want to be, I need my space. Yeah, right. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm in my, I'm in my mid-30s now. I'm starting to creep up on that 40-year-old.
Yeah, like, I'm creeping up on 50, fella. I've got no sympathy for you there.
I'm not looking for sympathy. Look, hey, there's only one place to find sympathy for me, and that's in the dictionary.
Yeah,
We ain't
look,
gonna say
I
where.
just see. I see we're nearly out of time, and I want to just—it's not a plug because I don't make any money out of it. But someone said,
Yo, go ahead and plug it. We got you. Go ahead.
well, it's not a plug. It's more just about the community. There is El Cartmancolo. Introverts also do not always know how to market themselves to people that need you to tick boxes and give them information. That is the very reason why I set up the InfoSec Live community. I've put together some free training courses in there on soft skills, communication, and goal setting. And if anyone needs any help with any of that, it's the only thing I'm any good at. So I'll happily give you an hour of my time one afternoon or one morning if you want to go through stuff. Just reach out. I'm genuinely happy to help. And I think I'm never going to be a techie. I'm never going to be one of these great people I wanted to be. But we can be great if we rely on and work together with people who've got diversity of experience and skills. And I'm not talking about diversity of sex or gender or color or creed. I'm talking about experience, and that can come in any gender, any color, any sex, and any creed. And that's the true diversity that we need in this industry. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. It is one of those things, those soft skills, that being able to talk to people, that being able to at least relay who you are, whether it's on a piece of paper or, I don't know, record a video. I know people that have started doing video resumes. They quit.
I think that's going to
realize.
be. I think that's going to be huge. I've spoken to 2 recruiters. Apparently, they are changing their whole processes to do that. But again, for people who don't like being on camera, and unlike me, don't like the sound of their own voice, it makes the process even more difficult, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And so I think we're going to have to hit a hybrid effect somewhere in here. Right?
Yeah,
I don't know. There some way of doing it. I don't think there's any perfect way because everybody's different. Just like everybody learns differently, everybody relays who they are differently. And yes, there are going to be some companies where you're going to be client facing. So you have to be able to talk to people. If you can't do that, that's not the job for you. No. You're not going to be able to do that job. And so just getting into that understanding of, you know what, I've got to be hidden in a hidey hole in the dungeon and just let me go on the keyboard. If that's the type of job for you, then that's what you need.
But again, it's getting firms to understand. Perhaps some of these firms are looking for a unicorn position that doesn't exist. They want this super technical person who can relate stuff to their C-suite or their end clients. Well, that's not going to fucking happen. Excuse my French. There's 2 jobs, right? It's 2 jobs. You can improve those soft skills to get through an interview process. But if it's not what you're naturally good at, why would you want to focus on that? And I think businesses need to realize that if you can get a kind of technical person and a gob on a stick like me to work together to deliver that solution for the firm or the client, then that's where you're going to see real success, is bringing people together and collaboration.
Yep. It's a team effort. It's always going to be a team effort.
I see someone's asked if I've got a YouTube channel. I'm going to have to drop that in there. Yes, it's InfoSec Live, same as the community. I haven't got my own personal one. That got taken down years ago. No, it's a joke.
I think I have you here. I'll drop that in the chat right now. And I think I put it in the, what do you call it? I think I put it in the description, but if not, I'll drop it in chat real quick, and then I'll also put it.
It's just info-sec.live. It's ever so simple. There's 5 questions to answer when you join, because we're trying to streamline the process and refit the whole community site at the moment to make it more relevant, because it's kind of grown from me just throwing crap at it since June last year. And whilst there's lots of value add in there, it's also very confusing now. There's so much content. So I'm in the process of stripping it down and getting feedback to how we can improve it as well.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, hey, we're over the top of the hour. Simon, it's been a blast having you on here.
Thank you.
Great story. I hope it helps someone out there that realizes that it doesn't matter where you're at in life, what you've done wrong, what you've done right. You can still make it, and this job is for you. So before we sign off, any final words?
Yeah, I think you've just said them. It's all about mindset, and it's all about belief. The one thing I've shown in my life is that I can achieve anything I want within reason once I put my brain to it. However, flip side to that, I can also destroy it really, really quickly if I put my mind to it. And again, all of that is mindset. It's about focusing on the right things, doing things for the right reason, and you can achieve whatever you want. And if anyone needs any help with the soft skills, interview prep, routes to market, I'm happy to help for free. So please do reach out.
Definitely. Thanks, Simon. Hey, thank you for your time today. thank you. I know you're over in the UK, so thank you for staying up late or waking up, late to kind of join us on this stream. It's been a pleasure having you on.
And
As
hopefully
always,
you'll do me the return favor maybe next week
of
or the week
course.
after you come on mine. Brilliant.
I'll let you know. We'll hook it up. We'll get it on the calendar.
Thank you.
So as always, look, the cyber overlords are going to be calling my name soon. Hopefully they don't come, and suck me up real quick. But I'm the Cyber Warrior. This is CyberWarriorStudios and it's Security Happy Hour. And as always, I will be back next week with another amazing episode. So make sure you're here live every Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, take care.